Are you excited for Dragon Dogma 2? Well, we have a ton of new information that's just dropped from a recent Capcom highlight, so with only weeks until the actual release of Dragon Dogma 2, let's go through all of this new information, and you can let us know below if you're excited for this or not. The biggest reveal is that you can actually start creating your own characters as of today, because Capcom have released a character creator and storage tool for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. The really cool thing about this is that you can experience the game's character creator, and it will be fully transferable to the complete game when it releases, meaning those of you that like to spend 10+ hours creating your perfect character, you have plenty of time to fine-tune them to make them exactly how you want without missing out on that precious playtime when the game launches. There are a ton of options to select in this, but if you want to skip that, you can use a simplified version of the character creator tool that will have you refine your character over a series of options. You'll be able to create both your main pawn and your Arisen alongside picking your starting vocation. Of course, the options for this include the fighter, archer, mage, and thief, and all of them are looking pretty cool, but we would love to know what you guys are thinking of picking down below and why. Another amazing thing with this character creator storage tool is that you can create up to 5 different pawns and Arisens, giving you plenty of choices for the ones that you actually want to play when the big day comes. In addition to this, there will be official pawns in the game that you can hire onto your team that have been made and themed around creators, including fantastic creators like Rurikan, so shields up, iron breakers. For the gameplay aspects that have been revealed, the developers mainly spoke about your relationships and how they will have a huge impact on how your game plays out, and that various gameplay elements like random NPC interactions or the guards in town will be determined by the game's underlying RPG systems. You see, each NPC is going to have different courage levels that will affect how they react to things, which is really cool. However, be warned, we have learnt in recent interviews that NPCs will not respawn if killed, so you will need to be cautious with getting help from NPCs in battle just in case they get wrecked by a monster. There is, however, a way to get them back, but it will require you to visit a morgue and use a wake stone, but you will need to be quick as this will only be available for a couple of days before they get buried, and then they will be gone for the rest of the game. So if you don't get there in time, you will not be able to revive them. Also, wake stones in the first game were a pretty precious resource, so you probably can't do this quite often anyway, so it's probably best not to go around town casting crazy spells just in case you accidentally kill an NPC. Another highlight of the stream from the developers was the fact that your actions will impact your relationships with various NPCs, but also certain actions will cause these NPCs to react differently to each other. Here's one of the examples that they said during an interview. A character who grows close to you might come over to your house to play, but if they meet another character there who's done the same thing, a fight might break out. Personally, we just made the system because we wanted to be able to say, stop, don't fight over me. And they go on to say it might be best if people go through the game trying to avoid this kind of outcome. On top of this, the developers have confirmed there will be over 1,000 NPCs that you can interact with, meaning that you will have an absolute ton of choices to make throughout the game. One of these kind of choices is the fact that you can deceive various NPCs with a returning system from the original Dragon's Dogma that allows you to create forgeries of certain valuable items to then give to NPCs rather than giving them the real actual valuable item. There are various reasons you might want to do this, but you will need to pick wisely because there's a lot of different outcomes you can get from this. In our recent hands-on, we actually got to experience this firsthand, but in the most crazy way. We had 2 quest handlers that wanted us to give them the same rare quest item. We managed to find this item after doing a bit of exploring, but then we had the choice of either giving it to one of them or instead using an NPC vendor in town that could create a forgery, a duplicate version of this item for us for a money cost. It took some time in-game for the forgery to be made, but then we noticed we could actually do this again to get 2 fake versions and keep the real item for ourselves. Now, this should have been the end of the story, giving both of the NPCs the fake forgery and then getting the quest reward. But what actually happened is one of the NPCs wanted to check if the item was the real deal. At this point, we thought that we were caught, so we were shaking out of our boots. But luckily, we found that the vendor that they were going to check if it was a forgery was the same vendor that made the forgeries. The vendor actually said to this NPC during this sort of cutscene that it would take a little while to authenticate it. So after the code coast was clear, we went back and spoke to the vendor in secret, and we were able to actually bribe him to tell the NPC that this was a real version and not a forgery. We had to pay him a lot of money to do this, and it ended up being around 12,000. But then when the quest handler came back to check if it was authentic or not, the vendor told him it was real as we've paid him off to do so, and the reward for the quest was around 12k anyway. So this just shows you how dynamic the game can be, where they try to call you out on your bluffs with things like forgeries. During the stream, they also spoke about some of the different quest types that we can expect and how we will get quests in the game from NPCs. The way the game handles quests feels super dynamic and immersive, as while you're out in the towns or worlds, random NPCs will just walk up to you and start talking with you, which may lead into a quest. During our own play session, we actually had multiple NPCs actually queue up to talk to us about various tasks, so each person that wanted to talk to us had their time to do so. We also know from these streams that the quests won't just be to slay monsters, but also to deliver valuable items, like the previous quest we spoke about, and even sneaking into places undetected. One of the biggest points of discussion recently, though, has been the frame rate of Dragon Dogma 2, with it only being around 30 FPS on console. But for those of you that can play on PC, you'll be happy to hear that you will be able to get up to 120 FPS or have a variable frame rate, which has been confirmed by this Reddit post by user Train13, which shows some of the PC options available to us. It will be super interesting to see how the game will run on Steam Deck, and it will definitely be something that we will test in our impressions video once the game has released. So with loads of super interesting stuff ahead of the release of the game, you can actually get creating your characters and having fun ahead of launch. So tell us what vocation you're going to make your character, and subscribe for more Dragon Dogma 2.